Hey everybody, and welcome back to another dev video here. So the plan for this video is what we were going to actually do yesterday's video is to, well actually it wouldn't be yesterday's video, it'd be yesterday's stream. There's two streams if you guys go to Twitch, TV, whatever. Let me actually pull it up here for you guys. So you go to here, if it'll load. Load a bit slow today. But you go here and you go to videos, you guys can see yesterday's videos. So these two videos I worked on the conveyor belts, and I'll probably see if I can try to export them to YouTube here later. But we worked on the conveyor belts, we got them up, we got them running, they work rather well. Earlier this morning, before which I didn't record it, I fixed the collision boxes, improved the movement, did a few other tweaks. So the movement's really good, directions are good, controls are good, so you can right click, left click, do that kind of stuff to rotate the belts, and it really fluid movement. This video we're going to focus on implementing the rotation here, which let me go ahead and pull the graph up I made during yesterday's stream to kind of show what we're going to do with the render states here. So go ahead and I believe it is the production folder. Production assembly line. A little bit sluggish this morning. I mean, haven't had sleep yet. I'm still trying to do this. So this is what we're kind of implementing. Ignore the fact that this is here. I'm still going to end up doing the frames the same way I was doing them earlier. Right now the frames are nested deep into a for loop, and they're the last step. I realized after making this that this tree is kind of meaningless, because how this works is that the three main types extend belt. Then everything extends the type. So all this is big nice tree here. This all extends that, and it doesn't extend it via these arrows. It's basically a big array that's attached to this guy. And I forgot that's how it works and kind of wasted my breath on trying to understand how it was being set up. Because I was like, you know what, if we move this, or we move this up and down, which was the thought yesterday, is that we can improve memory usage or something. And that turns out not to be the case, because you still end up with 13 frames per direction, or no matter what you do. And plus we're adding 4 new states, which we don't really have to add this state here. I realized that as well this morning, but we're going to do it anyways. And we're going to end up with 4 new states, so 4 times what we already had, which will end up with like 1,000 states. It'll be pretty expensive, but it'll work out pretty well. Additionally, I went through and I edited some of the models here. So let me go open up a model folder here. So we ended up with, if I can select them all, three models now. So I turned the base model into 3 separate models. This is to improve handling. It's a little finicky to try to mess with Techni models. And what I want to do is I just want to call render on the Techni model. So we now have a base model which does no longer contains the extra layer in it. So this is now just a flat layer. We will be using this guy as primarily just the default belt. We'll also be using it for these in the future here. We aren't going to worry about that right now because we don't do anything with that. That'll add just an additional state per frame as well. Another thing I forgot to do, I didn't. I inverted the belt on the bottom, so that way it's pointing in the other direction to improve rendering. And of course, removed a couple pieces of junk. Middle belt is now, it's pretty much the long belt piece, the one we currently have been rendering. So we've got that set up. It has nothing else in it. It's just pretty basic, and we'll call render on this. We won't have to mess with it. We won't have to do any hiding of parts or anything else. And then of course we got the back belt, which is going to actually handle our connection between belts. And actually, now I'm thinking about it, I actually do have to mess with the middle belt. I think I have to mess with the middle belt. It's a little confusing because of how it's got to be set up. So this guy can connect to the base belt without a problem. And you know what, we're going to use this guy as the middle belt. I don't know why I made a middle belt for it, because it's not going to get used. Actually, no, there will be a use for the middle belt. It's just I have to toy with the logic a little bit. So the middle belt will probably be used when you have manipulators on both sides, I think. I'll have to think about it. I haven't thought it through very far. So we got this. This will be used for the middle belt, so we'll make sure we actually change that. So this is what I'm setting up right now. I'm setting up all the different render states. So how we got it set up is a for loop is now going to, when it goes through all its systems, it's going to set the parent model. And the parent model is these guys up here. So it's each of these. So instead of doing a for loop to generate these automatically, we are going to do these by hand. The reason we're going to do these by hand is each one of them is going to be customized. So they're going to be slightly different from each other, which means we're going to have a little bit of work to do. And we need to do... How actually, this is going to be a little confusing how to do. Speaking of which, there is actually still a for loop down here that actually does describe this, so that's actually how the states are generated still. It's just we have to have a parent state to extend. So when it comes to the middle belt, we actually don't need to do this part anymore. We don't need to do really anything unless we use the back belt piece. I feel like we need a fifth state now. I'm sitting here pondering on the idea. We're not going to worry about it right now because we can only connect the belts, so we're going to actually throw the back belt in here. And then we're going to chuck off a couple pieces. So let me actually open this back up. So if we end up as a middle belt when we're rendering this, what we want to do is we're going to take this guy, which is actually conveniently called back belt, and we just want to turn it off. This is case sensitive. I probably could make it case insensitive, but I really don't care. We don't have to render those pieces as well in there. I don't think we have to really mess with the back belt almost at all. It's going to render flat, so we don't have to do anything with that. Flat, we still have to turn off these pieces. But when we go to render the front belt, which is this, we got to turn off, I think, back belt again. I think it's literally that simple. Actually, we still have to put that in there. We gotta remove that, and then we gotta also turn this off. I think this will work. We're gonna probably find out here. This is probably gonna crash at least once or twice. We'll do the incline belts here in a bit. The inclines are pretty simplistic. We just gotta turn off like 2 or 3 pieces each, and we just gotta make sure we do it correct. The middle, we just turn off 2 pieces. Each one of these, we're going to turn off 1 piece each. And then we'll duplicate that code over here, except it'll probably be inverted, is how it'll work. Actually, it may not be inverted. It may be the same code for both. I do have separate models, though. I actually need to go update the models and do the same thing I did with the other ones and flip the bottom conveyor belt. That way the texture is inverted. So a bit of texture work needs to be done. To be honest, the thing is I'm going through and doing all this, and I'm probably going to come back through here and I'm going to redo the models from scratch, and I'm going to have to redo all the states. Hopefully by the time I get to that point, I actually have an in-game editor for this, so that way we're doing this all in-game and we're not sitting here diddling with text files. That's the end goal, is to eventually get away from messing with text files altogether. After all, it's a bit tedious. There we go. Yeah, so that, I mean, this does look pretty good. Won't be too hard to mess with. This one's not inverted, though. So in order to invert this, flip it, down 1, and then bring it over. The models probably are going to be loaded by the time we save, so we won't get to see the new version for that piece. But we'll go ahead and save it. So we are working on, I believe, the back one. We'll go ahead and save over that. And to be honest, I think the models were set up originally to do this, and then I think somebody went through and changed them. And what we ended up doing is after we changed them, and I think the reason why the changes aren't actually in here is that I think we're using the stock models, and the actual game version had a separate set of models that were edited for the actual mod. But what I think we also might have done is we may have edited the Techni models at runtime. It's real easy to just go through and go Techni model, shift this forward, and we might have done that. That was something very common, that when I worked on the UB mods, we had a tendency to shift the models in game, because with Techni models, they're really easy to edit. They basically, you make a whole bunch of boxes and you edit them. They work rather nice, actually. That's why I'm thinking about actually making my own model system. Is I can mimic the Techni models without much of an issue, and I probably could mimic this editor too with just it'll probably take me a couple weeks, but I probably could do it. It's not very complicated. I'd rather do this in game though, because editing in game would be much superior than trying to mess around with this, because you would be able to see your model in game and you'd be able to understand what the textures are doing and what they look like, and I probably could even put a texture painting system in there, and if I actually get that far, what I might do is make a mod just orbited around that concept of where you can make your own models and textures in game for decorative reasons. And what we'll do is, like, you can make an object out of wood and then paint it, or make an object out of metal and then paint it, and it would have the properties of what you make it out of. And then you could do decorative things with it. You could install lighting in it, so you could be like, here, I'm going to make this lamppost and we're going to put a light bulb in it and some wires, and I could code that in. That actually would not be something extremely hard to do once you get past the rendering. The rendering would be the hardest part. So what we could do is make a modeling system and a texturing system, so you can make your own models and textures in game. And I would just let you export those two, export them as a JSON file, because they would probably save as a JSON file anyways. But then you could take that JSON file, and then you could plug that into a mod that we were working on, and work on it, so that I could double use it. So not only do you have a mod that you can make cool decorative items for yourself to use, you now can also use that mod to make actual mods with. Make your swords, your guns, your weapons, rocket launchers, rockets, decorative items, tiles, machines, everything. It would be a pretty ambitious project, and it would probably take me a couple months to finish, but the amount of benefit would be amazing. Anyways, beautiful belts. Also, this really cool system, I can hit F3B to turn on collision boxes, and I can render my collision boxes. I love this system. It's really cool. That's what I was working on this morning. It allows me to actually know that these are actually working properly, so when I actually get and jump on these conveyor belts, I know that they're actually pushing me around properly. So if I get on this, and it's kind of hard to tell because it causes my character to enter a movement animation. Anyways, that's the wrong state. These all look correct. Yeah, these all look good. As you said, they got that animation on the bottom, but this one right here, which we're looking at, should have the updated animation. Yep, see how it moves in the opposite direction? That's going to be really important too, because it'll look much nicer when people build really large assembly factories. But yeah, this the texture's in the right direction. It's just, it's using the wrong piece. It should be using the back model for this one. What I need to do is really quickly add some kind of right-click behavior. And I didn't actually add a handler for that, did I? What I think might just be wrong is when we go to update the connections, I just need to invert them. Doesn't make sense because it, I mean, it looks like it is using the right piece. It's just, okay, let's go ahead and we're gonna build some tiles real quick, and we're gonna sit here and stare at them all. So we can tell these are all base, by the way, because they have the connection still in the middle, so they're not updating connections for whatever reason. Who knows why. Should update connections, and it's not doing that. So these are all using the base model. I wonder, do I need to send the connections to the client? No, there should be calculated both sides. Oh no, I think the update connection state is not calculated both sides. I think that's actually been changed. So if I break this, yep, there we go. So I think what I need to do is I need to send the state to the client. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll go at the bottom, update, or sync to client equals true. Because I think what's happening is I have a piece of corrective code in here that is designed to prevent infinite loops, because there's a very bad bug, and this happens to a lot of mods, not even just mine, where the client will start to update, and it will start to tick off neighbor block update checks, and it will infinite loop on itself because you're going to constantly tick off checks, because you may be loading data from the server to client, and you may be changing stuff on the client, and it can cause the client to crash. I've patched this in so many different people's mods, and so many people are at, it's not like to blame them for it either, because they're not actually doing anything wrong. Anyway, so this would be, actually we already synced the connection state. We just aren't informing the client to update. So update here. Actually, what we need to do is update state, because we have changed the connection state, which means we need to change things like collision boxes and stuff. So that way we can go over here and we'll just go through and update these manually. And that looks like that is triggering updates on all of the blocks. So we are having a problem where it looks like these are inverted on all of them. Yeah, so these are all inverted. These are all using the wrong state. So this looks like this is using the base model and is just disabling the one state. So it is using the front model from the looks of it. Yeah, because this model and this model look identical. And this one should be using the same model the middle guy is using. So let's take a look at what we screwed up. I doubt our state is incorrect. So what we want to do, we want to simulate this. So I'm going to come over here and oh wow, that state's it wrong too. So you're using, you should be using the front state and you should be the back state. So I think what happened, that the front and back state might be inverted. I didn't trigger an update yet. We got one. You know that whole client side thing I was talking about? That may not actually be happening. What we can do to check this is if I can drag this up. We're server side. You can see that by the server right there. Still server side, still server side, still server side. What is ticking block updates? That's one of the biggest bugs I've ever seen in Minecraft, is that there's this weird issue where block updates can happen a lot. So let's go ahead and break these all. Ignore the collar leaf fluffy things. That can be fixed by just changing the icon. Although I kind of like it. I like the creative poof of having multicolored wool. So that's the reason why that looks the way it does, because the default block, when it can't find icons for will change each side to be a different wool color, just so you can identify what side's what. So that gets rid of all but these guys. Oh, you know what that's doing? I see what that's doing. We don't actually want to do that. We want to tell sync line. So we just caused a really slow infinite loop there, and that's the reason why it's doing what it's doing. So what we want to do is we come here, and I want to update you. There we go, I triggered an update. So front is true, back is false. Okay, so what I realized is that if you have something in front of you, that these two need to be inverted. So if we have a belt in front of you, but you don't have a belt behind you, then you're a back belt. So belt in front, but not back. Belt behind, but not in front. Nice to leave documentation. Belt on both sides. Because that's the reason why that was messed up, is I was misunderstanding what I was doing. So I was like, oh, if it's front, then we're going to be front. Because, I mean, that makes sense. It's logical. Okay. And there we go. The render is fixed. So now what we should be able to do is this should work for all the states. And I should be able to make these really long, nice conveyor belts, and they should be nice, beautifully connected with no gaps between them. And that does look to be the case. You know, I think I need to move on the middle belts. I think I need to spread these pegs out just a little bit. Like just by 1 pixel maybe on each side, just so it looks a little nicer. Because you got this really big gap right here. And that kind of, it looks bad. Although, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 3. Yeah, it's just a 4 gap between them. So it's 1 extra pixel gap. You know, there's no real way to fix it. Like, the further you get away from it, the less obvious it becomes. So I'm not going to, toy with it too much. I was going to, bug my OCD for the rest of the day, but I'll deal with it. There's more pressing issues to fix. For example, that pixel gap right there. See that 2 pixel gap right there that doesn't get animated? That's a bigger issue. It's not as noticeable unless you're sitting there deliberately looking for it. But there's a problem with the animation frames. That works though. If I didn't accidentally knock my screen up. Then these are set up to work. This is a little, like, the switching between incline, decline, and flat belt is not intuitive. I need to work on that. But it seems to be doing okay. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to get rid of the impact of this. Let me also put a gap between these so we can test with an actual belt connection. Because you're not going to have a perfect animation when it comes to connecting with other tiles, but as long as it's connected with the belts it's designed to connect with, we should have a good connection. See how that's the Z fighting in there because we got objects in there. There's also a little bit of a problem with that not lining up perfectly. It's lined up really good on this side. It's the decline belt that I think needs to be dropped down 1 pixel. So we'll go edit that model. We need to edit these models anyways, and I'm going to have to restart the game in order to get the updates for the models. So the decline belt needs to go down 1. There we go. That looks okay, I guess. Let me take another look at that. You know what? That may be a barely, is what that is. What kind of belt is it using here? It's using a base belt. We need to be using a middle belt here. And an exact middle belt, I mean, too. So we're going to have that another state for this guy. I'm not going to do it just this episode, though, because that's something I'm going to toy with later. We want to make sure we get rid of those black blocks. That's going to be the main goal. It's really hard to determine, like, the level of problems with this, because the reality of the really big issue with this belt right here is that we're trying to use pixel coordinates to move it around, because that's what Techno uses, like, as pixel coordinates to move things, and it doesn't look exactly correct. And you can tell that because this is where these little black blocks, those are meant to represent conveyor belts. They're not actually meant to do what I'm doing with them. And you know what? I'm going to move you back up 1. And back again. Because you're just screwed up by like half a pixel. I think one of these belts is meant to be like partial pixeled. But we don't want them colliding in with it. So I think we're just going to have to live with that. That's not quite right. And what we'll do is when we redo the models here is we'll use trapezoids for the sides here. Or no, rhombuses is what they're called. And that will make it look really crisp. Nice and matched up. Same for this down here. We'll probably redo all this. I'll probably even put in hexagon rollers in the middle here. So it looks really nice. So that'll be belt version 2. We're going to keep these models, of course, because people do like the classic models for whatever reason. I don't understand it fully, but if somebody does like something, I'm just going to let them do whatever they want. So we don't have to mess with this model because we already fixed it. Yep. We want to fix this guy here. And he's already rotated. So let me see if I can flip him to -90. Apparently I need to go another 180, so really, Techni? Can I please have it back? I'm just gonna have to like eyeball this real quick. I think it's -135. So if we do this by the math real quick, 90 minus 180. Should be 90? Oh no, wait, we start off with 45. 45 minus 180. Yeah, -135. And this one's just gonna be as simple as we just have to bring it over and then up. and until we get it lined up. This is where I would love to have center points. I think I can actually offset these. I think it is an actual feature. Anyways, that's got that same connection problem. You know, I wonder if we take these to like 7, and we take this one to a rounded number. Oh, it is a rounded number. Okay, so I was like 6.5? No. 7.5? Because it's only off by just the ever smallest amount. So if we go like 8.5, it's much closer. Negative 8.5. It'll look just a tad bit nicer, and then if we can bring this down to like 18.5. Oh, it's just so close. 19.8. 0.4. And then negative 8.6. No, that needs to also be 0.4. It's going to mesh up a lot nicer since we sat there and toyed with it. It's just not going to... No matter what we do with this, it's just never going to be perfect. Anyways, this needs to be turned to 8 though, so that they're not crushing the rollers. As long as it looks half decent, that's all that matters. So after all, I do want to redo these models. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, I probably am going to redo the classic models. I'm just going to make them look exactly like they already were. So this is the decline we're working on. Now let's go ahead and do the recline. Incline. Close that one. These ones have different texture sheets. I just noticed that too. See the texture sheets up there? I think they've been combined. Okay, so this guy needs to be inverted. So it's negative 135. Or positive 135 probably. And technically discrete bumping. I forgot the delete key will delete the object you're selecting rather than doing what it should be. This should be programmed that if you're highlighting a text field and you click a number, it should actually give you a proper usage for it. Then again, this software was just kind of YOLO'd, I believe, because it's missing a lot of design problems. Then again, I'm saying that as a professional who actually works on software rather than a hobbyist, which I'm pretty sure this is made by a hobbyist. Yeah, it looks pretty good. The weird thing is, like, this one meshes up really, really well, and what I really should just do is invert the textures on this. And although I have to edit like tons of textures to do that, but it would look nicer. Most likely people are just going to be using inclines. I doubt anybody's going to use a decline belt. And the reason I say that is you can just let the item drop off an edge and it would work just fine. There's like almost no point to a decline other than aesthetics. But yeah, that's edited. And then we want to go into our code here. And we want to actually edit these guys. So these are called, I believe, footers. Let me go ahead and open this up so I can get the name. So bottom footer. Now let me go ahead and think about this for a second here. Wrong file. Okay, so if something's in front of us, so if we're the front belt, then we want to get rid of the back footer. We're editing the back one, so we want to get front of the top footer. Go ahead and grab this. Middle, we want to get rid of both of them. Bottom footer. That would be like literally the only one that would be easiest one to fix. It's because you don't have to really think about it too much. And this one's going to be the bottom footer. And we don't need to mess with the base one, so the base one's going to do just whatever. And we need to duplicate these over. I think we do need to invert them for the decline belts. So if we're going to a decline, now actually it should work. Okay, and the middle one we get rid of both of them. So let me think. Yeah, I think this is correct. Let me take a look at it up here real quick. So back, yeah, we get rid of top footer. Back, so it should be the same. Just because of which way, like the decline belt, the thing that's in front of it. No, these are inverted. So if you're decline and you're the back of it, you want to get rid of the bottom footer. Because your actual rotation code is inverted in all these. That should work, and we just gotta restart the game. Pretty good effort so far. I think I've only put maybe 12 hours in total into the belt so far. I say then, I think it might be longer. I'm really bad at estimating. I probably should start doing like time cards of like how long I've put in here. Because we did 2 streams yesterday. The first was like 2 hours, second one was 3 hours, so that's 5 hours there. I did 2 hours this morning. I did a few hours the day before. So yeah, there's definitely quite a few hours there. But not a lot. It's not bad. It's going really well. Belts are almost completely done. All the existing functionality there. Only thing I haven't re-implemented is like redstone control, and I'm not sure I'm going to re-implement that, as it was barely useful. And we just got to make the inserters pick items up and then drop items. Now the inserters are going to be pretty layman when it comes to usage. They're going to just, if it's over top of a belt and its pickup location is the belt, it's going to grab the item and it's going to rotate and drop the item. And then vice versa. So if its drop location is a belt, it's going to drop it on the belt. We're not going to make the inserters really complicated right now. So they're just going to have a system that tells them what direction they pick items up and what they drop items in. Most likely we're going to have a GUI where you get to select left, right, and front. That's literally how the GUI is going to probably work. Actually, we may make the GUI just slightly more complicated. I'll have to see how it goes, because there's not a lot of usage really right now. The inserters are meant to be like the tier 1 version of the robotic arms, and then once you get to the higher tiers, you start getting things like the arm bots, which are going to be actual robotic equipment. So you can think of like the inserters as, they're not even robots. They're just programmable machines. So they're machines that you tell, okay, do step A, B, and C, and D, which is kind of what most assembly robotic arms are to start with. But the ones I'm speaking of will be much more intelligent. Will go, okay, I can only pick up, say, shoes, for example. Or I can only pick up cows. And I can only drop, if they'll go, if it's a cow, drop to the left, if it's a shoe, drop to the right. For whatever reason you have those two on the same belt, I don't know why. But that'll be what it become more intelligent. So we'll have some kind of tier progression system at some point. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that. I'll figure it out. I don't want to mimic Factorio, but that's what keeps coming to mind, is to mimic Factorio's tiering progression. Although Factorio's is a little, maybe too broad. Then again, I play modded Factorio, so I have like 50 options for robotic arms at this point. And they have I think Bob's Mods has a really nice GUI for configuring inserters. You can do some really cool things. Now, I'm not going to go to that extent with these because the robotic arms in assembly line are not really designed to be far-reaching or inserter styles, but we may make some that are. I'll have to think about it. I don't really have a design on what the future is going to be for the robotic arms. I just know that there's a certain amount of stuff I want to re-implement, and there's a certain amount of stuff I want to tweak. And I went ahead and added the inserter, which means I'm kind of screwballed on. I have to implement a certain progression with it. Although I do like the inserters, so don't get me wrong on that one. Because they're really nice, these little guys. So imagine that, like, if he picked an item off the belt and then dropped it, it would be kind of cool. So, yeah, that didn't work. So our decline belt got worse. At least we got the state system correct. It's just they're not meshing well. To be honest, if this one right here was a middle belt, it would actually work. And I think what we need to do is for the decline belt, we need to add an extra piece right there. Because this is shifted 1 pixel forward. If there was an extra gap there, that would probably fix it. Because we see, like, with at least the incline belt right here, that meshes decently well. There is some Z fighting right there that you can see. It's not as obvious. Let me go ahead and full screen this so it's a lot more easier to see. So right there's some Z fighting where the two cross each other, and down there's some also Z fighting. It's where we actually need proper models for this. I'm going to have to go find somebody to give me proper models. Because what I'm thinking is I could replace these models with models that look almost identical to them that just fix like really dumb things like this right here. And with, yeah, there's some sync issues. Like that needs to go up an entire block, which means these rollers would probably have to be collapsed by a pixel. How are these models designed? So when we have an incline belt, which is what we're staring at, this is an incline belt. We don't really need to worry about it because it's going to mesh rather decently well. So that's kind of almost representative is what this looks like right there. Let me actually move that here. I'm messing with the wrong variables. So move that back because that's kind of where it's going to hit up. The bottom though needs to be brought up a pixel. So what I need to do is I need to come in here and I need to take this guy and I do need to change his dimensions. That's where that's going to be, and that's where that's going to be. So that tells me a little bit better where that's at. And literally upping that by 1 pixel just fixed that right there. I mean, we're not going to like completely solve the Z fighting problem. There's like no way to do that with using technique models. I have to use object models for that. But I need to change these roller pins. Oh, they're going to literally be like 1 pixel in size. Huh. I have an idea. We're gonna get rid of the roller pins. Get rid of this. I'm gonna copy this if I can. Okay, apparently you can't duplicate these anymore. No. Edit copy. Edit paste with coordinates. So what I'm thinking is we drop the length, pop it up, Then we increase this by 2. And what we do is we created an interior belt pretty much right here. And this will hide the fact that there's no rollers inside there. And I don't really care what it looks like. It could look white for all I care. So that'll look a little nicer. Of course, we're going to need to repeat that for the decline belt. Really, the reason I don't really like Technique models is because they do have this tendency to look like crap. I mean, you can make some really beautiful models, and there's some mods with some really beautiful stuff in them. But it's really difficult at times to get the models to look just right. And it does take a bit of talent to get this to run well. Especially when I try to fiddle with the controls and I fail at it. I don't think like any way we're going to edit the decline belt is going to look well. Like no matter what I do to it. I think it's just one of those lost causes. That is a lot closer. Anyways, edit, copy, edit, paste with coordinates. So we're just going to call it inner. Of course, we want to make sure we change the UV on this so it's out of the way, increase the width, and we got to up it here. Something's not quite right with this. That's going to Z fight. It doesn't really look like it, but it will. It's just the spacing's not quite right on this. It should look better though. So this is the decline belt. So there should be a slight improvement in rendering. Okay, I think it's the last thing we really need to mess with. So other than that, I mean, we just got to fix this belt here. We just got to tell that that's an actual middle belt, which means we need to add another state. I'm not going to bother with it. Because it needs fixed, but it doesn't need fixed that badly. I need to go make models for this. So we're going to move on though, and actually I will call the end of this episode, and what we'll do is we'll come back in the next episode and we'll actually implement the robotic arm picking up items and dumping them in chests here. And we'll also, well, I guess we'll need to actually drop items too. So let me go ahead, and that didn't update states. Yeah, that's a bug. So that isn't triggering a state because that didn't like really update properly. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll put a robotic arm in here as well. That'll drop items, and we'll probably work on the robotic arm as well because you notice it has some bit of placement quirks about it. We'll get him to pick up items, drop them. Then we'll have it cycle between these two, so we'll even have another robotic arm maybe come back through. And then bring items back up. That way we can test without having to do a huge amount of work. Yeah, that's not really intuitive. I definitely gotta work on that part for sure. Put a wall here so we don't have stuff drop off the edge. Same here. Yep, placement works. That's a given. There we go. Got this set up. So I'll see you guys later.